I'm Nathan. I'm the lead product manager for developers on Tango and Daydream. And today I get to talk to you about something that is super awesome, at least I think it is, and that is immersive computing. Immersive computing is a family of very related technologies that we believe is going to revolutionize how people interact with information and experience the world. With VR, we can actually take people from the world that they live in. There we go. We can actually take people from the world they live in into unfamiliar new worlds. We can make them feel physically present in new places, both real and imaginary. With AR, we can actually bring the world of information into our own. We can enhance with information interactivity the actual objects and environments we find ourselves in. And both of these together are incredibly powerful ways of enhancing and expanding the way that we interact with the world. And of course, at Google, we think this is amazing because our mission is about interactivity and about information, right? We think about our mission statement, organizing the world's information, making it universally accessible and useful. And that's why when we think about VR and AR and immersive computing, we know that VR is going to make our ability to be surrounded by it, to access information, incredibly more immersive. And AR is going to make the information that we're surrounded by, sensors from our phones and from the Internet of Things, from the data sources that we have about our products and our users and the physical objects that surround us, and make all of that dramatically more useful and interactive. At Google, we also think a lot, about scale, like all of you do, right? We want to maximize our reach and our impact. And we believe that fundamentally, scale and immersive computing is going to come from mobile computing form factors. So already today, right, there's no surprise, there's billions more smartphones in the world than in PCs. People have spoken, and they say the future is mobile. And so what you'll see is everything that we're doing around immersive computing will be built around mobile form factors. So today I'm going to talk to you about two platforms, two products specifically. The first of which is Daydream, our platform for mobile virtual reality, and Tango for mobile augmented reality. And I think this is a great time actually to be doing immersive computing work because this stuff is finally becoming real. Just a few weeks ago, we launched the Pixel, which is the first Daydream-ready phone in the world, the first one that embodies our vision for what's possible in VR on your phone. And just a couple of days ago, Lenovo released the Fab 2 Pro, which is the very first Tango-ready phone in the world. So this technology is not theoretical, it's not abstract. Like, you can go to a Best Buy or the Google store and get these devices now and actually experience for yourself virtual reality and augmented reality available on your phone. So we'll dive into both of these platforms in a little bit more detail so that you can understand the specifics and the opportunities. With Daydream, we're talking about virtual reality. And the challenge with VR is you're creating a sense of presence for the user. That requires you to be really, to have hardware and software that work perfectly with one another. When somebody takes their phone and puts it in a viewer and straps it on their head, you're teleporting them somewhere else. You're creating a synthetic sense of reality. And when it's flawless, it's transformative. And when it's not, it's often not that awesome. And so we've been working very carefully to design the hardware, the Pixel phone, and the viewer, and all the software like Android N to work well, to be perfect for VR. And for months and months, my team has been obsessing over the details of these platforms, making sure that the phones are actually ready to deliver amazing VR experiences, that our viewer is lightweight and comfortable, that it has a controller that you can interact with. But for us, we think it's honestly not good enough to build something that's great. We want as many people in the world to experience VR as possible. And so we've done the really hard work to actually make the viewer and controller available for a very affordable price point. And also, they're sold together. So as a developer, you can know exactly what input every single Daydream user is going to have when they launch your app. We know that fragmentation is a big concern for a lot of developers, and we're making sure that that's not a problem on Daydream. Also, of course, like I said, this stuff really matters when it's real, when you can go to a store and buy it and take it home and experience it for yourself. And Daydream View is actually going to be available in stores in just a few days, a week from today, on November the 10th, which is also super, super exciting. So the foundation of Daydream is, of course, the phone, right? All the compute, all the sensors are in the phone that you use for the device. But Daydream is not about a specific phone like the Pixel or only phones made by Google. Like I said, we believe in scale, and scale is going to mean the way that Android does it, which is through partnerships and other OEMs. And so it's actually a standard called Daydream Ready. And the Daydream Ready certification is something that we actually work directly with OEMs to make sure that every phone that's tagged Daydream Ready is actually going to be great for VR. That means things like certifying that there's low persistence displays, high compute SoCs, and accurate low latency sensors on the device. This way, as a developer, you know that every Daydream Ready phone will run your app really well. And for consumers, they know that when they buy a Daydream Ready phone, the entire catalog is going to work great on it. Also, every Daydream Ready phone is running Android N, which is our first version of Android actually optimized to be great at VR. And we've done some really fundamental innovations. We've done things like sustained performance mode. So we actually manage the SoC inside the phone. We basically have different power management in VR to balance performance and runtime. We've got very sophisticated head tracking that fuses all the sensors on the device to figure out where you're looking in space very, very accurately and at very low latency. But of course, it's still your phone, right? And sometimes you get notifications, you get phone calls. And so we've taken core Android system UI and made it VR aware. So if you get a call while you're in VR, you can actually stay in VR and decide for yourself whether you want to answer that call or not. So the phone is great, but with just a phone, it's not VR, it's a phone. And to be transformative, we need a viewer that lets you see the world in 3D and a controller that lets you interact with it. And that's what Daydream View is all about. On the viewer, it's actually very simple. It's electronically inert, which means that all of the smarts are in the phone itself, and the job of the viewer is to be as comfortable as humanly possible. We've actually tried to take a lot of cues from apparel, from soft goods. If you look at a lot of kind of high-tech VR, they're inspired more by gadgets, by DVD players and consoles, but nobody wears electronics on your body. Nobody wants to put a DVD player on their face. So we try to think about, like, for a thing that you wear, let's design it in the same way, to be made of fabric, soft and approachable. The controller looks actually pretty simple, but it's honestly really expressive. And there's a challenge in VR, which is when you have a controller, you need to be able to use it blindfolded, right? You're wearing a viewer, and so you need a controller that's both accessible for users, that they can operate without looking at their hands, but expressive for developers. And so we have a few different surfaces. The key is a clickable touchpad. It's an analog touchpad that supports touch and click separately. There's an app button that's up to you to do whatever you want with, and a home button that we reserve for key actions like taking the user from your app back to Daydream Home. Most critically, though, this is a motion controller. It has a 9-axis IMU that can give you very, very accurate 3D orientation, and you can use that the way you would like a Wiimote on a console. Actually give people a live sense of hand presence. You can map virtual objects to what the real controller is doing, and people will feel a very powerful connection of how the virtual world is connected to their physical actions. So all of that is enough to get you from the real world into VR, right? But for us, the platform is about, it has to extend past that entry point. And we know that for most of you, you want to actually not just make great software, you want to make a living, right? You have businesses to run. And so for us, we've been very focused on both discovery and monetization. The screen behind me here is what's called Daydream Home. This is the first place that every user goes when they put their viewer into the headset and step into VR. The top 3 big tiles there are called discovery windows. They're surfaces where we curate and expose the best original content for Daydream. We know that early adopters of VR are going to be extremely hungry for new content, and we want to surface that as often and as prominently as possible. The cool thing is that we actually can leverage deep linking in these discovery windows, not just to promote new apps, but new experiences within existing apps. So if you're building a platform, a service, and you have new content coming in all the time, we can actually surface that new content, not just the launch of the platform itself. So that's discovery. It helps get people exposed to the best of what we have to offer. But monetization is really important as well. So we've brought, actually, with the launch of Daydream, the Play Store into VR. So users can browse for content, check out collections, buy apps, and install them, all without leaving VR. It's an incredibly easy, low-friction way for people to find new content. Of course, that's awesome, but we know that many of you have the whole business is built on selling, goods, on transacting within applications, not selling premium goods up front. And so we're actually launching with in-app purchases or in-app billing day and date with the launch of Daydream. So whether you're a freemium developer or a premium developer or somewhere in between, you can bring your content and your business model into VR right out of the gate. And for me, this is all super exciting, but nothing really speaks to the power of the platform more than what developers are already creating for it. So I think we'll check out a video that shows exactly that. All right, well, that gives you a sense of what Daydream's all about. And now I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to talk about Tango, which is our AR technology and platform. And where Daydream's sort of core technological challenge and opportunity for innovation is about creating a sense of presence, taking people from the real world and helping them teleport to somewhere else. Tango is all about basically taking the computers that we have in our pocket and teaching them to see the world the same way that we do. And if you think about, our phones, we have them with us everywhere. And they have some amazing sensors in them, right? They have accelerometers and gyro and GPS and cameras, but they still don't fundamentally think of the world or see it and understand it to the same level that humans do. For example, if we take a look at this coffee table here, it's not just a bunch of pixels. As humans, we look at it and we know that there's important features, that there are edges that are sharp and corners that we might bump into. We know that some sides are flat, that it has a top and a bottom. We know that that object doesn't just exist in isolation. We know that there are other objects around it, that vase is on top of the coffee table, that the coffee table is near the sofa. And in fact, we know not just about objects and their relationship, we think about spaces. We think about how this coffee table is in a room, and that room has many things in it. And as you start to think about and understand a space, you can actually consider not just the physical objects, but what might also be there. You can imagine that if this family had a baby, they might add some additional objects. In fact, it's not just about what might be there, it's about how the objects behave, that there are things like doorknobs and light switches that are interactive, that have special meaning and special functionality in the context of that space. And Tango is all about enabling phones to understand the world exactly like we do, in a structured and deep fashion. And there's really three technologies that allow us to do that. The first is motion tracking. There's depth perception and area learning. And these are kind of the pillars that Tango is built on top of. So with motion tracking, it's all about helping the phone understand where it is in space, both its position and orientation as you move around. And you might think, well, I have GPS. Doesn't that already give me position? I've got a gyro and accelerometer. Doesn't that give me orientation? Well, they do, but they're very coarse, right? GPS is accurate to centimeters or meters, and worse when you're indoors. The gyros have drift over time. But Tango fuses all of that and uses a technology called visual and inertial odometry to get very, very precise estimates of exactly where it is in space. And you can see the example of kind of the 360 3D movement all the time, super precise, super low latency. But we also want to understand the world that the device interacts in, not just where it is in space, but what the outside world looks like. And that's where we get to depth perception. Depth perception allows us to actually understand the 3D nature of the world. We can tell you that some objects are close and some objects are far. We can tell you that walls are flat and vertical and floors are flat and horizontal, and some things are not flat at all. And when you combine depth perception with motion tracking, you can actually build a very detailed, accurate map of the world, the sort of the phone sense of where it is in space and where space is around it. But when you, unfortunately, like with just those two things, you get to build a map and then you leave the app and we've lost it. So that's where area learning comes in, where area learning allows us to not just build up a map of the world, but to remember it over time. And not just remember the world, but to share maps across users. So if somebody's mapped an area and been there before, other users can benefit from that information. And when you combine motion tracking and depth perception and area learning, you can get some incredibly powerful experiences. You can actually build a very precise measuring tape using your phone and its touchscreen. You never have to carry a measuring tape again, just like phones have already replaced flashlights for most people. If you're a commerce app, you can actually have people look at a good and see how it's going to look in their real space, size, scale, and lighting before they've ever made the purchase. And you're going to hear more about that later this afternoon. Of course, for gaming, augmented reality is awesome. You can have virtual pets that inhabit the same world you do, or gaming that actually interacts with the physical objects and dynamically responds to the real-world environment you find yourself in. And last, you can explore your world more fully. There's everything from like highly precise indoor navigation to enhanced learning to actually augmenting the objects around us with additional information and interactivity. And for me, these are incredibly exciting opportunities, and I hope that together I've given you an idea of the opportunity in immersive computing in both VR through Daydream and AR for Tango. And although these things may sound like very exotic and crazy, the foundations are actually incredibly familiar to you as developers. Both Daydream and Tango are built on top of Android. And Android is, of course, the foundation for both of them. We have native C++ NDKs and Java SDKs for both Daydream and Tango. So actually enhancing your existing apps with either AR or VR is going to be super straightforward if you're a native Android developer today. And of course, with Android, you get Google Play. And like you saw, we've integrated everything from the stores to IAP deeply into both Tango and Daydream. So you can leverage all of the transactions, the payments in dozens of countries, all of the user analytics and customer engagement features. All of that familiar and powerful tool set is available for you today in AR and VR. We know that many of you, if you're doing 3D already, are maybe using a game engine like Unity or Unreal. And we've built deep partnerships with both Epic, the maker of Unreal, and with Unity for first-class native support for both Tango and Daydream. And that means that if you're using these game engines, you'll get first-class, super easy-to-use, very high-performance AR and VR with both of these world-class game engines. I hope all of this has given you a sense of the potential, the vision, the scale, and the impact that immersive computing is going to have. If you want to know more, if you want to be a developer for Daydream or Tango, or hopefully both, check them out online. Our developer resources and tons more information are available for you. We can't wait to see what you make. Thank you so much for your time.